Hey everyone, it's Jim with the AI Business Ninja, and thanks for stopping by. I'm also known as your friendly neighborhood ninja. Just kidding, no copyright infringements, hopefully. I've got a little bit of a dry sense of humor sometimes. I have a wild sense of humor, so it's kind of all over the place. But anyway, today I'm going to do something a little different. Just kind of wanted to kind of give you a little bit of like background on my story of getting to today. It's kind of leading up to what I'm doing as far as being an affiliate marketer and in promoting AI tools for helping people and businesses become more effective and to make money. I'm doing a bunch of different things in the background, like behind the scenes to try to learn more so that I can bring you more content that's more value. But I kind of wanted to let you know kind of my story so that perhaps you can identify with me or maybe see some things that I've gone through and hopefully avoid some of the mistakes that I made. Just to kind of give a quick overview as far as like from a business perspective, I've tried a lot of things like e-trading and I was somewhat successful with that, but there's a lot you have to really focus on that. I'm sure there's a lot more AI tools that you can use for e-trading and that kind of stuff now, but I tried that and I was mildly successful at it, but it was just there was so much focus and work I had to do to kind of learn it and how to spot the trends and all that kind of stuff. I know there's a lot of bots and stuff that you can get now, but anyway, that costs money and it costs research and things like that. So I decided that wasn't for me, at least at the time. I tried e-commerce several times. I did Shopify probably 3 different times with different kind of niches and was mildly successful with that, but I didn't want to deal with like customers that were chargebacks and things and having to continually like trying to stay ahead of the market and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I chose affiliate marketing because a lot of the things that are being presented today are things that are kind of we're at the beginning of. So a lot of these AI tools are still relatively new within like the last year or two or maybe a couple years or so. So they're still relatively new, and I think they're going to be around for a while. So I encourage you, if you haven't jumped into this kind of stuff, take a hard look at it because it's a great opportunity. And I would hate for you to see an opportunity pass you by like I've seen opportunities pass me by in my lifetime. But anyway, so just to kind of give you a background about me, and I'm going to be just bare bones honest here, just kind of like this is me, just talking off the top of my head, and just kind of I just put kind of bullet points on just the big events in my life. I was born back in the 1800s and went to school with Abraham Lincoln. And no, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that old, but I am. They didn't have dirt when I was born. They just invented dirt and running water and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that old. Sometimes I feel like I'm that old though. But anyway, um, I had a very good childhood. I was born in the 70s, and actually in 1970. So I'm telling you that's my age and everything. So. I had a really good childhood. I had 2 younger sisters and mom and dad. Dad was in the army, and then as soon as I was born, he came back. I was actually born in Germany on a military base, and then we flew back to Atlanta, and then a couple years later, my sisters were born, and we had a really good childhood and very creative, and our family was pretty tight, and we did a lot of things together. We went on camping trips, and we went to church, and we did all traditional kind of stuff. But I was very creative. I was always dragging my sisters and my friends in the neighborhood. We had a big neighborhood with a lot of kids the same age, within a couple of years of each other. So we all kind of grew up together, but I was always trying to come up with something to do, something that was creative. In fact, I would make my mom go to the grocery store and get boxes like that were discarded, and I would bring them into the basement, and I would like cut them up and tape them up and make little like spaceships out of them and like buildings, and had all kinds of things that we used just to kind of use our creative imaginations. Now you probably wouldn't think of that these days, because nowadays everybody's on the internet, and kids today are on their cell phones, and it just seems like they're glued to the cell phones and stuff these days, and all that. But back when I was growing up, we had rocks, and that was all we had, and we were grateful. So I had sticks and it had sticks and rocks and that was it. And we were grateful and they tasted delicious. And no, I'm just kidding. So I'll just get off a little bit there on the humor trail. And that's another thing is I used humor like ever since I can't remember. My grandfather was humorous. He used to like prank people all the time. My grandfather used to do this, and it was funny. My dad was like that. He would do have a lot of humor and stuff, and so I guess I kind of inherited that. Um, but anyway, so we would I had a very creative childhood and was always trying to think of things to do. Like we would make like little forts in the backyard, and we'd play like sports and stuff like that in the yards, and we'd just get on our bikes and just ride all around the neighborhood like all day, and that was fun. I mean, we were used our own imagination and stuff. So anyway, um, but I was very creative, and I always was trying to create stories, and had like imaginary friends and things, and imaginary like villains and bad guys, and we sometimes we'd be on a space adventure, and sometimes we would be like playing like we were cowboys and Indians and stuff like that. Sometimes we would pretend like we were on a different planet. It was just all kinds of crazy stuff that we had, and it was a lot of fun. I had a very very fun childhood memories. So, but when things started going a little bit south for me was in middle school, where I started kind of, people started changing and getting into their cliques and stuff. And, there's a lot of peer pressure in middle school to kind of fit in and stuff. And I was a little bit more, I guess, I wouldn't say I was more intelligent, I guess, but I guess I was more, I guess, focused on my school grades, I guess. And, I guess that kind of put me into not really a nerd or geek kind of category, but I was kind of not with like the jocks and stuff for some reason. And I got picked on for a little while, and it was just for a short period of time, but it was a very critical time in my life. But that sowed some seeds in me that made me very, I guess, very like apt to addiction. So, and I'll get to that later. But I got into addiction shortly. Well, several like a couple of years after like all the peer pressure and everything. But anyway, but I used comedy a lot when I was getting picked on. I started to use comedy to kind of overcome that, and that became kind of a source for me of strength because some the people that would pick on me one year, the next year I was kind of using sarcastic humor to kind of turn things around and make everybody laugh at them and stuff. But no, not well. I guess kind of insult them, I guess, but to kind of get back at them, but also to kind of let them know. I mean, it just didn't bother me. And plus, I grew about another foot and like like taller and wider and everything, like between the sixth grade and seventh grade. But so didn't really get picked on much. After that, but there was like a short time there where I got picked on, and it was really I was like thinking, I'm not any different. What's going on? All these people that I grew up with, all of a sudden why am I different here all of a sudden? But anyway, so then I started getting into dating girls and everything, and started to kind of get a little bit mischievous with testing with alcohol and drugs and things like that. This is kind of like getting towards high school and stuff. But we had a family that like we didn't really talk about a lot of stuff. We try to maintain the image that everything was fine. I grew up in a middle class family, I guess. So, I wasn't poor, I wasn't rich, but kind of somewhere in the middle. Went to a public school. But I really, like in high school, I really started getting into drinking and started, getting into dating and all that. And I started finding, a lot of being popular, I guess, in high school, I guess, where I would use alcohol to kind of get into parties and things because people like I worked at a movie theater and people would bring alcohol and I'd get them in for free, and so I would have the alcohol, and of course if my dad's watching this, just anyway, but just letting you know. Anyway, but if he's not watching this, don't tell him. I'd sneak out of the house and get into all kinds of mischief and stay over at a girl's house or something, and I'd sneak in and nobody would know. But anyway, but I really started kind of, that was my where my addictions really started taking off, as I started drinking, and I got to the point where I was drinking, I'd go out to my car and drink like some vodka at lunch, and I started doing that, kind of not regularly, but it started to become more of a habit. And so anyway, but I tried to hide the addiction, and my grades were decent enough to where I didn't really have to worry about all that kind of stuff. And then I got to college, and things just kind of got worse from there, where stuff just snowballed to where my addictions got worse and worse and worse. where alcohol didn't work enough, so I countered that with drugs and adding all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so after 8 years, I finally graduated college. I had to, I co-op through college, and I had to pay for some of my college, and I got like a small, like a Hope scholarship and that for that. But anyway, but after college, I started working at technology companies, and started doing like telecommunication stuff. And that was then I started making a lot of money when I was doing that, and my addictions got worse because of that, because I was making so much money. And now I'm like, okay, I'm now I've, and that's like for an addict, and you throw like a lot of money in there and low responsibility and low accountability or no accountability, and you just got like just a major crisis party kind of thing, So I just went crazy, and after working at this technology company for a couple of years, my boss finally was like, something's wrong with this guy. And he's like, you know what? And we had a talk, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I've got an alcohol and drug problem. So I went to my first rehab, and they paid for it, and I did great for a while. And then, uh, and then I made a bunch of bad choices and decisions, and ended up relapsing. And I was just like, screw it, and I ended up losing that job. Well, I got laid off, and then I went to another telecommunications company and got laid off of that job, and then went to another couple of companies and got fired from those and everything, and it just kind of was just a bad series of events. And then when I guess it was around 2000 or so, my mom had she got sick. She was sick back in the 70s with cancer, and she got cured from that. But then it kind of came back, and then she went through chemo, radiation therapy, and all that. And I kind of had to help her a little bit, and it just was my addiction was just going worse and worse and worse, because I was like, I can't see my mom, I can't deal with this. So I kind of had to lean on my addictions to maybe help me get through that, which is no excuse for it or anything. But anyway, eventually, my mom, she got better, and then she got worse again, and then in like 2004 in January, she passed away. But the last, and I probably get a little bit emotional here because this is kind of reliving this, but I'm just being honest with you guys. But she, the last day that I saw her, I was high and drunk and high. I can't remember, both or something. Anyway, she wanted me to kind of go into her hospital room, and she was like, "Hey, will you pray with me?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I prayed with her, and the last thing she said to me was, as I was walking out the door, she was like, "I love you," and I said, "I love you too." And then I think it was like the next day, she died. And so at least at the height of my addiction, at least the last words that I said to her and the last words that we exchanged on this earth were, "I love you." And that's a blessing that I hold to me, that it's a gift, because as screwed up as I was, at least the last memory that I have of her is of saying, "I love you" to one another. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people's last words to their loved ones are, "I hate you," or they just don't talk to them again, or something, or whatever. So I encourage you, if you have somebody in your life that you're close to and that you may have some friction or whatever, make amends, because you never know. That may be the last time that you might see that person. But then I guess about a year and a half passed after that. My addictions just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I was homeless for a little while. I was thinking, I remember staying in my car saying, I've got a college degree. Why am I sitting out in this car freezing? And, why don't I have a place to stay and everything? I just was so depressed. And then about a year and a half after my mom passed away, I called my dad up on his birthday and was like, "Happy birthday, Dad, I'm killing myself." And I took the last bottle of vodka that I had and all the pills that I had, and I just took it, and I wanted to kill myself, and I tried to kill myself. And 2 days later, I woke up, and my sisters were able to. My dad, I guess, got in touch with my sisters, and they were able to track me down, and they got me into a rehab, and my second rehab. So I got into that rehab, and I was kind of like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this 100%. So thankfully that was almost 20 years ago. I've been clean and sober for almost 20 years, but it was a ministry that I was at, and I ended up staying at that ministry. You have to stay on it's like a campus kind of thing, and I had to stay there. And um, basically, you stay there and you work on your problems and your addictions and your issues and all that. And addiction is all addictions really are just there's a root issue that's going on, and you have to unpack that. And it's uncomfortable and it hurts. But and there's a lot of stuff. I'm just glossing over a lot of the highlights here, but there's a lot of other stuff that I'm not telling you. But I mean, just kind of if you know anything about addiction, I mean, there's everybody's got some sort of story and stuff. But anyway, so I was I was doing good with the with this recovery, and I ended up graduating, and I stayed on board there and became the assistant director, and I stayed there for 10 years. And throughout the time, I mean, I was doing like a little bit of IT stuff here on the side and all that, and tried to do a couple little things as far as like video stuff. And I love videos and movies and stories and things like that. I like the creative stuff, and I was also a music minister and did music and all that, and so I was able to sing and play the keyboard and guitar a little bit. But anyway, so. But I became like a counselor slash assistant director, and was had the privilege of being able to help people come through addictions and with their families. And I saw a lot of people be cured and well, not cured. I guess the seeds of addiction are always there, but they've been clean and sober, and they're doing great on their journeys. But I've seen a lot of people that I was very close to that passed away from addiction, and so I've seen tragedy, and I've seen families just torn apart from addiction. But during that time, that kind of really put into my heart to help people, and I was thinking, okay, like. And so, well, after I did that for 10 years, I got a job doing IT stuff, like just straight IT. So that's what I've been doing since then, just like straight like IT stuff. So I do like anything, like networking to computer stuff to printers to phones to like any kind of like IT stuff. So and it's something I can do. And I'm decent at, but I don't know that's not my real passion. My real passion, I think, is helping people, and that's why I wanted to kind of go into affiliate marketing. So that kind of gets us to today, is I wanted to be able to find things that can help businesses and help people become more successful and more productive, and that's why I endorse a lot of these products. And I've tried them out and tested these things, and I'm using a lot of these tools that I'm promoting. So hopefully, this kind of gave you like a quick overview of my life, and that what brings me to today. And I guess the whole point of this is to say, what is your motivation? What is my motivation? My motivation is I want to see people succeed. I want to see people prosper. And because when other people are successful, that makes me successful. When you're successful, I'm successful. So I wanted to just be completely open with you. Like this is my story. And some days, I question. I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, I don't see the immediate results, or I don't see the results that I want and everything. But you know what? A lot of the people that I've been following on YouTube that I've seen that have had success, there's going to be ups and downs. So if you made it this far in this video, I really appreciate you being with me this far. Please hit the like and subscribe and share this video and all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate it. And there's also some affiliate links in the description that are free to try. So give them a try. I would really appreciate that, and I think you won't regret it. But anyway, I just want to encourage you, if you are wanting to get into like affiliate marketing or doing any kind of thing with like doing YouTube or doing videos and trying to get your message out there, whether it be through just, you want to be silly, or you want to be something, as a business person, or you want to be something that's creative, or whatever you want to do, I want to just encourage you, because you never know when you're going to touch somebody in a profound way that's going to make them want to change their life. So that's what I want to do, is I want to help you, change your life so that you can be successful and that you can be financially free. But I want to be more than that. I want to be a resource for you to, make a coach or something. You kind of root you on and say, hey, you can do it. Hang in there. Okay, so I had to kind of edit this video a little bit because one of my personalities took over, and all of a sudden my head started spinning around, and I started, like I had to have an exorcism. Um, so I'm just kidding, of course. But I wanted to let you know that I said all this kind of leading up to where I'm at as of today. So I've had kind of a rocky past or whatever, but you know what? We've all had a past and we've all had issues and things that have happened in our life. But what is keeping you from doing this, or what's stopping you from moving forward? Maybe you've started your journey on affiliate marketing and trying to make a lot of YouTube videos and content and all that kind of stuff, but you kind of reached a brick wall or something. Well, what are the things that are frustrating you? We've all come to that point sometimes. I mean, there's sometimes like I'll look at the video views that I've gotten in some of my videos, and I'm like, there's nothing. So what did I do wrong? And some videos do well, some of them are not. It's frustrating sometimes, but you know what? That's all part of it. And we're not always going to hit a home run every time, so but the whole thing is consistency. Be as consistent as you can. And I want to be a resource to you. I want to be an encouragement to you. I want to be like a coach, kind of say, hey, you can do it. Let's go on this journey together. um, so um, Maybe you found some tools that are some AI tools that are working for you. Maybe you've used some of the ones that I've got in the description, and maybe you're seeing some success, or maybe you'd like a little bit more exposition on them, or maybe there's a tool that you want me to investigate for you, and I can give you my thoughts on it. But let me know. I'd really appreciate your subscription if you haven't subscribed to the channel already. But I will leave you with this last little bit, and just to kind of give you kind of leave it on a comedy note here. And I'm going to try to be more comedic and try to be more entertaining with making these videos going forward. But when I was 7 years old, I think it was like maybe 6 or 7, I was at a Catholic church, and I got in trouble because I made the priest laugh and the congregation laugh because I did like a quick little impression, and I was like, "Hi ho, this is Kermit the Frog here," and the I remember the priest and the congregation, they started cracking up, and I got in so much trouble. I was just like, but it was fun. It was kind of funny because I was kind of like being scolded, but they were laughing at the same time. It's like, don't do that. You shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, um, so anyway, I kind of wanted to leave you with that little bit of humor and everything. Maybe comment, hey, I love Kermit, and in the comments, if you've made it this far and you appreciate the comedy there. That's how real I am. I'm just putting myself, 100% out there for you. So hopefully this is giving you some encouragement, and keep following the channel and like the video, share the video, and I'll just wrap it up with that. So thanks for stopping by. This is Jim with the AI Business Ninja, and remember, never give up.